Good evening. Welcome to the edition of Keene No Spin. I'm Randy Filiault.
And I'm Dave Richards.
Randy Filiault with a cold for 10 days.
Yes, how you doing, Randy? How's things going?
Good, except for this damn cold I can't get rid of. I had one. It started to go away, and then, of course, you know, it's wintertime. We're all indoors all the time, and then somebody shared me their next cold. And
well, they said there's like 3 of them that are going around. So
yeah.
You time that out right, you can be sick all winter.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And on top of that, then the Patriots lose, and that, you know, that was like catching the flu, which I haven't caught because I got my flu shot. Thank God I got the flu shot.
Well, I am sorry to hear about the Patriots, but
I am too, because we were going to really have a good rivalry going at it here, you know. But
so, as a matter of fact, before we came in, I ordered my Colin Kaepernick jersey. I said if he won the championship game, I'd buy a Kaepernick jersey. So, and then I got a lanyard that had too. So, go Niners.
Hey, yeah, it's just one of those, you know, for those of you that are Patriots fans out there. I mean, that's sports.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's just the way it is. You know, all the talking heads and all the analysis, and you know, we try to break everything down. Hey, they picked a bad time to have a bad game.
They did.
Baltimore, to their credit, all the way through the playoffs. I mean, they beat
underdogs the whole way.
Indianapolis. They went in and beat Peyton Manning in Denver.
Which, you know, I mean, chat about it. I always had a lot of suspicion that Denver wasn't going to go anywhere. And when you look at it, their division's the worst in football. So they get 6 wins out of playing really poor teams. And who did they lose to? Championship teams, their playoff teams. That's who they lost to. So, you know, are they a good team? Yeah, but I didn't think they were going anywhere. But I thought it would be the 49ers and the Patriots.
I did too. And that would have been a classic rematch from the last game they had. It would have been a shootout.
Yeah, it would have been something.
But, hey, you like in any sports, it doesn't matter. I mean, it happened you go back a couple of months, Keene High football.
Yeah.
You know, a Hail Mary at the end of the game by the other team. The guy catches it, goes out of bounds, but the officials didn't see it that way, and Keene loses with a half-second left. You don't know.
Yep.
Well, that's why they play the games.
It is. It is. I will say this about the Patriots. I would suggest they look to defensive players in the offseason. And the reason I say this is not that you had some injuries, so it's not going to help you, but you know, they were talking, the talking heads were talking about it. I picked up on one thing they said was, last time the Patriots won the Super Bowl, who was on their defense? You know, think of the names that you had in that Super Bowl run. Ty Law, Bruschi, Harrison, Vrabel. And you could remember all their names.
Yeah.
And, you know, people were afraid of them. I think they need a couple guys like that, and they'll be right back. Well, I think they'll be right back in it anyways because of the offense. But
I was reading yesterday, they picked up a player, as we talk pro sports here.
Why not?
Because we talk everything. They picked up a player from the Canadian Football League. I was just reading about it yesterday. And he's a defensive lineman, and he played in California. But he had a serious injury, almost like I guess he had some kind of a heart attack, but it was based on some medication he got. So nobody picked him up. So he went to Canada to play for a year. Yeah. The Patriots just signed him. And the Canadian coach that has him said, who used to be in the NFL, said this kid is a first-round pick that the Patriots got for like $800,000.
Well, you know,
so I mean, but that's where good teams stay good. You pick up players like that.
Well, and look, that's always been what's the coach's name? Belichick. That's always been his talent, is spotting unseen talent. Yeah. And that's something he's always been very good at.
And keeping your budget manageable.
Which you have to do in the NFL. I mean, but you look at some of the other examples of that where you had Kurt Warner. He was bagging groceries. Yeah. And then he set all kinds of Super Bowl records. So talent isn't always what, you know, there's good coaches can spot it even when like the scouts and the colleges kind of miss it.
See, that's why I like football and why I don't like baseball, pro baseball. Because football, yeah, you can get the great teams, but the great teams in pro football before they had a salary cap, they just load up on talent. To stay on top year after year now, it's not just signing talent because you have deep pockets.
Right.
You know, you get a salary cap. You could have a smart front office, which Bob Kraft, the owner, obviously he's a successful businessman for more than one reason. Yeah. You know? Well,
and you look at, and that's just so true, you know, the Yankees, right? The best team money can buy. But even to some extent, the Red Sox, you know, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars.
And they both find out this past year.
Didn't work. But, you know, I mean, it always bugged me, and I go back and forth because I'm on one side I'm like, well, you should pay the players well, but if you have a salary cap, that makes it more about coaching than about how much money you can spend.
Well, of course.
And the big market teams aren't going to win every Super Bowl.
There's not too many pro players going broke. Well, at least while they're playing.
No.
Some of the dimwits, they're broke a year after they're done because, you know, they paid their entourage and didn't invest a penny.
Right, or they bought.
But that's another story for another day.
Yeah, or they bought an $8 million house, not realizing it costs, you know, $750,000 a year just to maintain it, and then their football career's over, and
Yeah.
You know,
which is what do I do now?
What do I? Yeah.
One of the smarter football players actually that invested his money was from Keene. Remember John Bosa?
Yep.
You know, back years ago when he played for Boston College, and got drafted by Miami, first-round pick. And the money compared to today's standards wasn't huge. I think he got $1 million.
Right.
But that goes fast. And you know, he invested in some gyms down in Miami.
Yep.
And got out of football, and he's successful.
If you do that, John Elway, he owns Denver. He owns car dealerships and businesses, and you know, there's Steve Young's another example of somebody who's invested and doesn't have to worry. But the NFL did do something about 15 years ago where they never gave these guys any kind of financial management. They just used, you know, there was a Bledsoe when he got his $11 million signing bonus. He put it in his bank account. He said, he was in an interview, he said, I'd sneak out with my ATM card and just get the balance.
Just look at the balance, because he was so stunned about it.
You put that much money in a checking account? But then they started seeing these players who really would just destroy themselves. And they started giving them financial planning and financial lessons and showing them, yeah, okay, it's a lot of money, but once you pay 35% income tax, and then this is what's left. And so fewer and fewer of them are landing like that. But still, some of them, you know, it's a big pot of money. I'm going to buy a Ferrari, and, you know.
There's still some dimwits out there, you know. Bledsoe, as a matter of fact, I listened to him on the radio the other day. He invested his money in a winery out in is it California? Or is it Oregon? In Washington. Washington
That's
State.
right, he's from Washington.
From Washington State. And they say it's phenomenal wines. I'm not a big wine connoisseur, but he's doing it's successful business is what we're trying to say. Some of the smarter ones are still successful.
I always thought they kind of let him down a little, and he's a pocket passer, and if you protected him, he'd kill you.
Yeah.
But once the O-line started letting him down, then he couldn't scramble. He couldn't do any of those things.
Well, that's one thing about being a pro quarterback, like your quarterback,
Kaepernick.
You can only scramble for so long in the NFL,
right?
As RG3 in Washington found out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you get hit in the NFL, because when you take off as a quarterback, you're now a running back.
Right.
They're not going to show you mercy.
No, but to Kaepernick's credit,
he can pass.
He can pass, he can run, and he will slide, and he will go out of bounds. Because I'm watching him, and I'm like, slide, go out of bounds. Don't let those guys hit you. And RG3 learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, he did. He might not ever come back to the same quarterback. We'll see.
He's young. I hope he does, because he's a phenomenal player.
He's absolutely a talent.
But I guess if we're going to go there, I really blame the coach down there for him. He should have taken him out of that game against Seattle. He's hurt, obviously. Their backup won a couple of games for him. Very good backup.
Yep.
Do you really want to risk RG3 forever?
They did.
And they did, and now they may pay that price.
They pay the price.
And you had a backup who's outstanding, who could have come in and won that game for you. It just bothers me, because the kid was hurting, and just to win one more game, you're gonna maybe sacrifice his career.
So next on SportsCenter.
Gee,
they probably get paid more than we do too.
And let's go to the goose and the All right, let's move along.
Our guest was going to be Tom Brady today, but he decided to stay home with Giselle. Can't understand why. So maybe next week. Stuff. One of the things Dave and I are going to do that you don't see here, excuse me, but one of the things you probably have seen is over the past few weeks, either one of us isn't here, the other one's not here, neither of us are here. We had been taping on Friday mornings, which turned out not to work out well. Our schedules were crazy.
Right.
So we're changing our times around. We're going to be actually taping on Wednesday. Show will probably be seen at the same times.
Right.
And that could change also. But we do want to do a better show, but we can't when neither of us can be here.
Right.
We're calling each other at the last second, saying I got to be at work, or
I'm out of town.
You've got to be up in northern New York,
Buffalo,
crawling through snowbanks or something.
I was in Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago. That was a little different.
Yeah.
But it's.
So anyhow, we want to start doing a better show again and more in depth and have more time to put it together, and it wasn't working on Friday. So thanks to Lee and all the staff here, we're going to be doing a different taping time so we can have more time. And Friday mornings seem to be tough days to get guests also. They do. Fridays everybody is pretty tied up.
Well, you get busy, evening times are the best, but then, your job and mine, it's not working.
No.
So we'll try Wednesdays at noon and hopefully.
We'll see what happens.
I'm in town. It's lunch. I can do it. We'll see what we can do.
And Wednesday's my day off, so finally.
So you'll be there.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there unless my day off changes. So anyhow, kind of just started off with how we doing? Well, obviously, I'm struggling not to sneeze, cough, and blow my nose here. So, actually, Lee Perkins here too, who the chief cook and bottle washer. He's been sick for a while here.
He seemed a little subdued this morning. I didn't realize he was sick.
Yeah, he's been down and out for a while. Which usually when you call and Lee picks up the phone, it's like, talking to somebody that's been drinking coffee for 6 days straight. Yeah. What do you want? And the caller, yeah. What do you want? Hey, Lee, feeling okay?
Yeah.
No. So anyhow, Lee's out in the other office struggling here. Let's see. Other news. I know most of you know that my son Sean lived in Australia. Excuse me again. He moved back to the United States.
Had enough of shrimp on the Barbie, I'm guessing.
He did. Had enough about being down under. So he's back home, and he's a college student again, and most of it's online. So it's kind of funny, there he is. He's a doctor, and he's got his PhD. He's a professor, and he's in our spare bedroom, and he's in law school. And the thing about law school that he's in, a lot of it now is online.
Yep.
You do it. I mean, it's a class. You've actually got the professor in front of you,
really?
on the screen. The whole thing is being monitored. He's got headphones on. Got the printer on one side. I mean,
well, it's
it's amazing. I mean, you're in classroom, but you're in your bedroom basically. Yeah. At your desk with everything set up, and the whole thing's interactive, and it's phenomenal to sit back and watch him.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes discipline.
Well, my wife's going back to college, and she's not doing that kind of online. She's doing just regular, but she had classes and stuff. But now a lot of that stuff's online. But the interactive I hadn't heard about.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And so he'll be doing that for a little bit. And then, before long, he's already taken one semester. He did that in Australia. Excuse me. A lot of it is international. A lot of it's the same. The last semester that he'll have to do, he'll actually do, in class in the United States.
Yeah.
So he's been all over the place about what law he wants to do because he's so fascinated by it. He's been doing military law recently. And
really?
It's interesting when you talk about military law, when the rules of military is to kill somebody.
Right.
But you got to play by the rules. Very interesting.
It is interesting. And it's, it's a lot quicker and, less procedural, I would guess, than regular law.
Well,
they have their standards, but,
That's the whole thing about it. It's just he's finding it extremely interesting, and I am. Of course, it's very, very complex. I mean, because you've got international law, then each country has their own laws, then you've got laws about torture.
Right.
And then how do you enforce the law? You broke the law, okay.
And it's very difficult to do that in time of war or in a war zone.
Right.
It's very difficult to do. It's funny, and I recommend this movie, Breaker Morant. Okay. It's about the Boer War in 1903 in South Africa. And they try these Australians for shooting prisoners and some other things, and arguably they did it all, but they were under orders to do it all. Mm-hmm. And it was really, it's a great movie. It's a great movie about how it's a trial. The whole movie's a trial during war in a combat zone.
Yep.
So absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend it. It's out of Australia.
Yep.
Won their Oscar, I want to say in 1981. But if you want to see something about a little international military law, you should tell your son to watch that movie.
Yeah, I absolutely will.
But true story, true story.
And he's also looking at maritime law also right now. They're looking at, which is kind of, it's a variation of international law.
Sure.
Because maritime is where are you? And he said it was really interesting because, okay, say you have some pirates on a ship that was registered to another country in somebody else's, not international waters, somebody else's waters. Where's the jurisdiction for the trial?
Right.
Is it the owner of the ship? Is it the country the people are from? Was it the waters that they were in? So
my guess would be the waters they're in, where you catch them, right?
I'm not sure.
We'll get an answer for that one.
And then they kind of look at it, it's like, okay, which country has the most strict laws, and do you want to try to push it to that other country?
Sure.
I mean, you think about military law, what we're talking about now, if you couldn't do something to somebody here, like torture.
Right.
We don't do that. But yeah, we sent them to that other country.
Sent them to Egypt.
We can't control what they do.
Right.
So anyhow,
that's a little fuzzy, but
I got the doctor/lawyer in the house, and
someday hopefully he'll get a paycheck.
Oh yeah,
that'd be.
Yeah, he's picked up a couple of part-time jobs to at least help buy groceries. But
well, he's going to be a doctor and a lawyer, so I should think by the time he gets there,
yeah,
He will be highly sought after.
You're just going to have to pick up the Indian chief title, too.
Yeah, right.
But he did say he went to Foxwoods, so that kind of covers it. The doctor, lawyer, Indian chief.
Well, look back in the genealogy. If you're like 132nd, maybe you can get them to pay for it.
That's a good point. Or maybe I knew somebody.
Yeah, right.
Hey, but anyhow, so, the only son's back home. Obviously, my wife's very happy about that.
Yes.
Because he was gone for, kind of funny when time goes by. He was gone for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
And, here I am, 22, 23?
Yeah, right. How can that be?
I haven't been able to figure that part of it out yet. It's like unbelievable. What else is going on locally before we start talking about politics and stuff? One thing I'm doing right now, after I watched the last show that we did on TV, I was like, one of these, I was like, oh man, gaining weight.
Yeah.
And I got on the scale, which I don't usually do, and I was up like 19 pounds over last year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen all at once, but it happens.
Well, see,
putting it on is so much easier than taking it off.
Once you get into your 30s, it's hard to lose weight. I mean, that's the...
Yeah.
You got to face up to it.
Man, I'm telling you. So that's what I've been working on. So I got about 20 pounds to come off, and man, it's so much easier putting it on.
It is.
I'm telling you.
Especially over the holidays, of course.
Yeah.
Cookies and pies and
of course, Holly and I walk a lot. That's where I burn a lot of my calories, walking a couple miles a day. And with the weather and the cold and, our son coming home and the schedule changing, haven't been doing that. So.
Well, I like going out walking too, but I'm not doing it when it's 10 below zero.
No, not at all. And got to buy a bicycle this year, again, as soon as spring hits and go out there and start nailing it.
Yep.
But it is funny because as you do get older, it's, I used to laugh about it. People say, I get older. And all of a sudden that weight just doesn't come off.
No.
It's like, damn. Like I said, I looked on TV the other day when I was looking at one of our old shows, and I'm like, uh-oh, is that me? It's like, damn. But anyhow, so, back at it, hitting the exercise, watching what I eat, which I hate because I love not watching what I eat.
Yeah.
But now the Patriots over, not so many chips and dips and, the food through the games that you just keep chowing down for 3 hours,
Well, that's my whole Planet Games. I put out a whole, Mexican taco kind of thing, and you leave it there all day. Yeah. So you can keep coming back, and it's not a good plan. It's not a good plan.
It's like Thanksgiving. No matter how much you eat, an hour later you're hungry again. Yeah. Or you're not hungry, but you're still eating.
Right.
And so you just keep... Exactly. Bingo. Thank you very much for that one. And so that's how that's what's going on in my household outside of this cold. And just to get the viewers updated, what have you been up to? Anything exciting?
Well, council's been very quiet. Actually, my meeting was canceled this week.
What's wrong with you guys? Back when I was on council, man, we were controversial all the time.
Well,
you guys are just boring.
It's boring. Well, things are... Well, money's tight, so we're not, spending anything.
Yep.
I mean, what's coming up for me that's going to be really good is the Marlborough Street.
Right.
We've
more the corridor, kind of figuring out what to do there.
Yeah, we put out a bid to this company in Boston. I think they've signed it already, where they're going to come in and do the analysis.
So you did spend some money.
Yes.
Okay.
This is well spent money because it's more than our staff could handle. They could do it, but it'd take them 5 years. I mean, so this company's going to come in. They're going to analyze all of Marlborough Street.
Okay.
And really, what we're looking for is zoning. So that we can get it viable and running again. I mean, I know what I was thinking, and you were there when the last time we talked about this, and then the economy tanked, and that
was the end of that.
That was the end of that. But I used Millwork Masters building there, which unfortunately they went under. But as an example of how do we put in storefronts, maybe I don't know about industrial, but commercial, and how do you tie that in with the neighborhood as well, so that all three things get vibrant and look nice and
everybody coexist.
Yeah, and that study's going to come back, and I'm sure there'll be overlay districts, and it's going to go on for a while. It's going to be complicated, but on the planning side of things, that's really what I'm looking forward to in a big way, because that's going to be exciting. That street, as the economy comes back, it's going to be nice to get this in place.
Yep.
So that people can start looking at Marlborough and saying, "Whoa, there is potential here."
So that's the fun part of city council that I miss, and it's always in you. People say, "You ever going to run again?" You say, "No." Well, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the part that you miss. When you see development from before it even hits the newspapers or the media, just, it starts off like this.
Right, you're talking about it for a year before.
You get a piece of paper in front of you, and you're looking at it going, huh. It's like the railroad property. I mean, of course, I had stacks of paper like that in front of me for 20 years, but finally it develops. And you think back of when it was just dirt.
Ugly dirt.
Ugly dirt.
Yeah.
Very ugly dirt. And, you like to see things progress like that. So, when you're done with council, you look back, and because as far as people being on council, believe me, it's not like you're going out with this big legacy that people are going to say, "Oh, great job."
Yeah, no.
Most people just remember the one thing you voted that they disagreed with. That's what they.
That is true.
That's what they remember.
Well, you know, it's funny because you say that. You know, I got that sidewalk ordinance passed years and years and years ago, and that and it's very slow development, so it takes forever. But you now look at the lower Ward 3, where all those streets are sidewalks now. All the concrete. Sidewalks are
the concrete sidewalks that last forever rather than the asphalt tears up every year.
Right, and you look at how that's changed the whole complexion of that neighborhood.
Now, is it earth-shattering? Is it something that makes front page? Not at all.
No, and it takes
not at all.
Takes 10 years for you to see real results once you do something like that. But by putting it in that we only do it that way and developers have to do it that way.
Right.
Over time, and I like to say, now at this point in my life, when we talk about lifespans between the two, every sidewalk going in right now will probably outlive me.
Yep.
Where they were putting in those hideous asphalt sidewalks that just look awful.
So when you get off council, and like I said, people don't remember the good things you did. They just remember the one thing that you did that they really ticked them off. Every time you go for a walk, you walk down a sidewalk. And I do the same thing. I mean, there are things that happened on council. I mean, the fire station, for example.
Yeah.
20 years or the 15, 16 years that I was there, and well before I was there, it was always, the fire station's falling apart. Right. And it literally was.
And that got very heated at the end because, there were two real camps. One said, keep sinking money into the old building. Yeah. And that's really where, I drew the line and said, no. Yeah. They had they wanted to do windows, and the only thing I would approve of was the roof.
Right.
Because if you don't have a roof, the building disintegrates. But they were talking about new windows and stairs and ramps, and I'm like, I'm not putting one more nickel into that than we have to.
No. Because
we know it's not going to live. But yeah, 15, 16 years that you were working on it. 10 that I was. Yeah. And finally it comes to pass. And
it's a lot of work, and since we're just talking issues like that. There's still people out there that say, I should have gone to 350 Marlborough Street. Well, what people don't realize is not only the response time, which was huge, it was going to cost more money to renovate 350 than to build new. And that's usually the case in most examples. It was like, changing gears a little bit, what the school board had to go through, our buddy Chris Coates, with a new middle school versus renovating the old middle school. Sometimes it's just cheaper to build new. I mean, it's like the movie The Money Pit about the old house trying to renovate it. Sometimes it's just cheaper to build from scratch.
It's funny.
In the fire station, it was cheaper to build from scratch.
Well, it's not, and it's not just. Well, it is cheaper. And in every example I've seen on big construction, it's cheaper to build new, and you can build state of the art.
That's going to last you another 100 years.
That's going to last you another 100 years, and that's the big thing. And I was always mad when they renovated Keene High. I am still mad about that to this day. And it was $15 million. And back then, that could have built you a whole new school.
Good point.
And they're in there tearing the floors out in the girls' locker rooms because the plumbing's bad. And I'm looking at this like you could have built new, state-of-the-art, with the rubber hosing instead of the copper that wears out. And, you could have built something that would have lasted another 100 years. We're going to be back renovating that in 15, 20 years. Yeah. Or making the decision then to bulldoze it and build a new one.
For example of schools, look at the blunders that the Monadnock School District makes at Monadnock Regional. Yeah. Put up those little shanties outside. Yeah. It's like, and now it's all falling apart again.
Sure it is. I mean,
and you're band-aiding millions at a time when you could have, a decade ago, built completely new and been done with it.
But that's another kind of issue though, because that's hurting cats. I mean, I
feel bad for the people, the progressive people that really thought ahead.
Who value education and live, because you've got the different communities all, punching each other for what they think they want. And it's just, it's hard enough here in Keene where we're all in one place. Imagine six different towns.
The towns competing against each other.
Competing against, and putting up a fight. And I'm from, Ringe and I want this, and I'm from Swansea and I want that.
And of course now the towns are bailing out of the district and they're coming into Keene.
Right.
So they've really hurt themselves.
And you go back 15 years, it was a very good school.
Yeah.
And then downhill, downhill, downhill. But yeah, you mentioned those buildings. Don't build anything in wood if you're building for, a municipal building. It's brick. Okay, it lasts a century. You take the big cost once, and then you're not looking at it for 100 years.
Yep, be done with it. Do it right. Do it right.
Do it right the first time.
And then be done with it.
And then, I mean, we'll sell that building. They'll do something with it, the old school. Or did they sell it? They're working on it. But anyways, it'll be sold. There's property there that something can be done with it. So and then you take that money All right, if the school board's listening out there, and apply it to the bond for the new school, so that you're directly reducing costs on that, like just like we did with 350 Marlboro.
Yep.
We said that when we bought it, we said we sell the other properties, that goes directly against the bond on this one, so we can lower that payment, and it did. We got, I want to say $400,000 for the old public works. It went right against the bond for 350
So to get all 350 Marlboro Street, you still have one or two of the naysayers that were deadly opposed to it back then, and it's still calling. But shifting gears a tiny bit, speaking about 350 Marlboro Street, and part of it that's remained empty, kind of just going to segue into here. The ice rink is actually looking like it's going to happen.
It's looking good.
I mean, you know, the committee that's doing that, you know, doing the fundraisers and really, it's really now gained traction.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot to be done.
Oh yeah, no, it's not going to be easy, but there's a lot of people putting in a lot of time and hours to do this now, rather than just talking about it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's going to happen. It just went.
Yep.
I think.
And as we've said before, that's once again, that's a big boon to Keene. The revenue coming in from that's going to be huge. And when it's done and everything, people are going to look back and say, "Gee, why didn't we do an ice rink sooner? Why didn't we do this sooner?" You
know, you look at where it is, and you can park there, and in the good weather months.
And that ties into what you just said about Marlboro Street being renovated.
Marlboro Street.
There you go. There's your key right at the end.
You got an ice anchor. You got the bike path that runs right to downtown behind it. You know, so you're tying all these things together.
Yep.
I mean, it will be a great anchor, and we can definitely get some good stuff down there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, because all the way from Marlboro Street down to downtown, I mean, just say you have a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, and you're like, geez, I got downtown here, got an ice arena here with 20 hockey teams.
Right.
I put a Dunkin' Donuts right here.
Yep.
There you go. Pizza shop, whatever.
Yeah, but you get that. Well, and I don't know where this is going yet, but I really like the concept we were talking about last time with storefronts on the street, and then once you in the parking behind them.
Exactly.
So it looks really nice, and then behind that you can do housing and other things and other businesses that don't really need to be.
Yep.
It's just going to be a complicated thing to tie it all in together. But that's right. If we get the ice rink, it's an anchor on one end. Main Street's the anchor on the other end.
Yep. And that's the fun thing that you get to look forward to as a city councilor, because you see it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then when it happens and you're long off council or whatever, and everybody's still complaining about a stop sign you did or didn't put in.
Right.
You'll say, well, we got that done.
I put that stop sign in.
Exactly. That wasn't my idea. So that's at the ice rink. Well, one thing that you've been getting talked is kind of funny too, and this is not funny, but ironic how things more they change and more they stay the same. The Keene Airport and tree cutting.
You know,
back 2 decades ago, when I first got there, it was the tree cutting on the Swansea side of it.
Right.
And oh man, wasn't that controversial? And of course now it's on the Keene side of it. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the FAA says trees are only going to get so high, you know, from a landing zone at an airport.
Right.
And they've exceeded the height.
So
we're back at it again.
I mean, I like to. One thing we don't get enough of on council when it comes to the airport is a real understanding. I mean, we both have been there. We kind of understand this stuff, but I think we need a bigger picture look, and I think the airport director needs to bring that to us. You know, tree cutting. I want to see the maps. I want to see the, and that's coming. Where explain this to us. Tell us why they do this. Where do we have to cut? Where don't we have to cut?
Yep.
And we get a lot of money from the Fed, and it's phenomenal. Keene pays 5%, the state pays 5%, and then FAA pays 90% for most of the things we do down there. But I still am starting to look at that and say, what do we really need to do, and what don't we need to do?
Right. I mean, it's interesting now too, because back when we started doing that a couple decades ago, when it really got controversial, technology now has changed so much too, and I'm wondering. With GPS,
right.
And everything that's on planes and in your car,
right.
Does that change it? Can you have the glide slope? Can you allow the trees to go a little taller, because with GPS and technology now, I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I'm not a pilot.
It's a good question, and when this comes up, these are the questions we need to ask.
Do they need to be cut so low, or is that just kind of old technology?
It's
I'm sure the neighbors want to know that too.
I do. We go back and forth on this one because the neighbors generally complain about the airport, but
especially when it's on your end of the backyard.
And you want to be as accommodating as you possibly can. All right, but
of course,
at the end of the day, you bought a house next to an airport. You're going to hear some air noise. I mean,
yeah, it was like when they had that helicopter school down there for a while. It was short-lived, And I remember a neighbor in Swansea had just moved in, and they were complaining about the helicopter noise. And it's like, it's an airport.
It's an airport, you know.
So, you know. Excuse me.
I'm betting the price in the house.
There we go.
Betting the price in the house was a little lower than, you know, if you weren't next to an airport.
Yep. Kind of like moving next to a farm. You don't like to smell the fertilizer.
Right.
Which we've been through that before, too. Housing development built next to a farm. They didn't like the stink. Can I bother one of you guys give me a bottle of water? I got my throat going here, and I'm going to cough all afternoon long. Moving on from the airport. Let's take a look here. We talked about the school a little bit. Our buddy Chris Coates and everybody on the school board here talk about putting a lot of hours into something and going, damn.
Yeah.
You know, the whole study about, you know, trying to see if they can drop one elementary school and renovate the others. And, you know, that's one thing frustrating about city government. You put so much time into something and into studies, into meetings, and then you come back and you realize, damn.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Can't
it's
do
not
it.
going to work.
Well, you know, and this we've talked about this where, you know, the problem the school board has that the city doesn't.
Thank you very much, staff. Appreciate that. Man, struggling here today.
Is the, you know, the school doesn't have staff like the city does. And everything they have to do, they have to farm out. They have to contract out and pay for. And, you know, they've asked us for help on a couple things at the city, and we've been happy to help them over the years, do some assessments of some buildings and things for them. But you wonder that we couldn't merge those things and get an economy of scale in one way or another. And I know I say that, and people go nuts. Oh, no, you can't do that. But when you think about it, we already have all the building type inspectors. We have engineers. We have planners. We have attorney. You know, and those, you know, you probably have to increase staff a little, but you wouldn't have to replicate it completely, which is essentially what the school has to do with contracting everything out, because they have, you know, very little resources.
Right. No, I know and there's 3 positions open for school board this year for anybody interested in running. And, you know, I talked to, you know, Chris Roberts and, you know, Chris Coates, and there's a lot of hours. I mean, there's a lot of hours in the city council, too, but like you said, you have a lot more staff to go to, you know, and, you know.
Yeah, to answer questions. You're kind of winging it. You're on your own in a little bit more of a sense.
School board's a little tougher. You know, and I actually felt bad for everybody on the school board to put god-awful hours into looking at, and they did it because they're trying to save taxpayers money.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right, yeah.
Trying to keep education as good as it is in Keene and saving money. And after all those hours, at the 11th hour and 59th minute, it's like you handed it, and like, it's not going to work.
Not going to work. So
you know, I certainly appreciate all the time they put in.
Yes.
But if you don't think they're doing that great of a job, or if you think they're doing a good job, you want to join them, 3 seats are open.
Yep. So put your name in.
Put your name in. What else is going on? State issues that affect the city of Keene. Well, one thing they're trying to do up there in Concord, we're taking a look at anything that Bill O'Brien did and trying to undo it.
Yeah, well, there's much work to be done that way.
I know one of it was the carrying an open firearm into the chambers.
I just don't see the point of that.
Then we get into the whole gun law issue. But I mean, exactly. If somebody's got a permit for a concealed weapon, fine, you have it. But looking like the Wild West, you know, and packing guns going in, you know.
Right.
To me, it was nothing more than an intimidation factor.
And that's what it is.
It had nothing to do with safety.
No, and you know, is that really what you should be focusing on as a state legislature? Shouldn't you know? First of all, the place is protected by the state police. I mean, you got metal detectors. It's not like it's not like, you know, regular buildings. Right. You really need to, you know, if you're carrying your, you know, gun so people can see it, your intention is intimidation. No question.
That's all it was. Yeah, that's all it was. It was a show. It had nothing to do with effective government, and so hopefully
some of the crazier things will be, you know, taken.
And you know, it is split up there. I mean, the Democrats control the House in New Hampshire, and the Republicans have a slight edge in the Senate.
Yeah, 1 seat, right?
One seat. But the Senate's always been, even when last year when the Republicans, you know, owned the Senate, they were still much more moderate than the House was.
Right.
Because the House, Bill O'Brien, he'd insult the Senate.
Right.
You know, his own party, insult the bejesus out of them if they didn't completely agree with him. So hopefully, And I know there's some shortfalls, some revenue shortfalls that they're going to be looking at too, because as we know, Keene lost over $1 million.
Right. Well, why don't you hire the people you laid off from the revenue department that brought in millions and millions of dollars for the, from tax cheats?
Be one of the first things I'd do.
I would staff that right up. I mean, that was every person who worked there brought in millions.
Yep. And they cut that. Want to bring back how many millions was it? The 10-cent cigarette tax.
Yeah. Put the cigarette tax back.
10 cents. Bring it back.
Yep.
There you go. There's some revenue. Now, obviously, do you look at spending? Of course you do. You always do.
Right.
You have to find out, is there anything bloated, anything duplicated? Absolutely.
Well, yeah, but I think they've cut so much out of spending that
I don't know how much more they can find.
I mean, we're down $1.5 million just at the city, and that's Keene. Yeah. So does that extrapolate to $25 million for Concord and $30 million for Nashville? Well, I mean, they've cut a lot.
Yeah.
And
as we've seen, and I know the state's in talking about the decking for the overpasses in Keene. Our bridges and highways are in pretty rough shape.
Yep.
Especially in this area. Of course, you go over to between Manchester and Portsmouth. There's always something going on over there. They're spending the money over there, folks.
They are.
It is getting spent. It's just not getting spent over here.
Right.
So
we need our senator and our legislators to put us on the map in Concord.
Right. And I think, I think with the makeup over there right now, I really think that's going to moderate again and bring some, bring some of the bacon home.
Right.
To our neck of the woods. God knows we sent enough revenue over there from the Rooms and Meals tax. So hopefully, I'm sure Molly Kelly was happy with the gubernatorial election. Because nothing against Ovid LaMontagne. I mean, I've heard he's actually a decent person. But his views are just
he's
out there.
They're it's really a libertarian point of view, and I've heard he's a great guy. But you really want libertarian. They have some great ideas I like, but most of them no.
Yeah, most of them just go too far out. So anyhow, hopefully they can get it's funny in Keene, a lot of the bridges are small, but most of them are the ones that go for Beaver Brook. They seem like a small bridge or over the Ashwillet River, but hey. You lose one of those bridges, and then you'll find out just how inconvenient the detour is going to be.
And we have a number of them that are on the needing to replace.
They've been on the red list for so long. It's amazing that they're even still up.
Well, I'm sure that they get on the list, and they're not going to collapse.
No,
but
you hope.
That's to tell you hope, but that's to tell you, hey,
fix it before it collapses.
This is where you got to put your attention, and
you want to fix it before it gets to the point where you say, now it's within that percentage where it could collapse, and we're going to detour it, and you have to go around it.
Right, and and that can happen.
An example of that was, and that's been taken care of, was Upper Court Street.
Yes.
That bridge was red listed and ready to go.
Right.
And finally the city, we've got to do this one.
Right.
So, anyhow, good old state of New Hampshire. And, reading some of the things that that they're talking about. And it's good to see moderation back up there.
Yeah.
And I think the governor is going to be a very good moderate.
Yeah.
And I never like to see it go one way or the other, two extremes. Because if you go to an extreme, in 2 years, the elections are going to happen, and it's going to change, and you're going to pull it right back the other way.
Right. And that's, that's not the right way to run a government,
keep it in the center. Keep it in the center. If nobody's happy, everybody's happy. Right? That's the way that I look at it.
There's truth to that.
If nobody's completely happy, then government's effective.
Yep.
If one group's happy and the other group's really ticked off, it's not working.
Yep.
So, if you poll everybody up in New Hampshire, and if they say, you know what, I'm not really completely happy, that's good.
Yeah, right?
Something's getting done.
That's funny. Never thought of it that way, but...
Yep. Okay, let's take a look moving on here. I'll get to the little police and fire log in a second. Business-wise, talking to planning department, it's kind of quiet right now because it's so freaking cold. Courthouse is going up. I just drove by on the way here. Those guys are cold.
Yeah.
Talking about working outdoors, I looked over at them today and I'm like, man, that's bitter.
I was in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago, and there's the hotel I'm staying at. They're building another hotel next to it, and they're like 7 floors up, and these guys are all tied to the roof of this building, and the wind was whipping, and I was like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not in construction anymore.
Yeah.
I did that when I was young, and that looked horrible. 7 flights up next to an airport. It was like, oh, I was cold just looking at them.
Nope, working indoors isn't that bad.
Yeah.
I know if you go up Court Street, and you'll see some of the houses up there, some of the older houses from kind of School Street back towards downtown.
Yep.
A few of them are getting renovated and completely remodeled. And The Putnams bought a few of them.
Ah, yes, I know the one that they bought right as you come out of School Street.
And I didn't find the exact 3 that they bought, but going up Court Street and seeing which ones are being renovated, I kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
And kudos to them, because that's their neighborhood.
Yep.
And
they're doing a beautiful job too. It's not like it's spit and baling wire. They are really renovating these buildings. I mean,
they're going through them. I know the one as you come off School Street and look straight ahead. That's going to be 4 really upscale condos.
Yep.
And I think the house next door they bought also, and then one further up. But these old houses on Court Street and Washington Street, the first half mile.
Yep.
These are the grand old houses of Keene.
Yes. Yes.
And it's nice that somebody's able to renovate them.
Well, like they all turn into law offices too, which, I'm very happy to see, because most, these go back to when there was a gentry, and you own this 38,000 acres, back in the day.
Yep.
But, it's hard for regular people to own a house like that without chopping it up into apartments or whatever.
Just heating and cooling them is almost impossible.
Well, you got to totally renovate them. I mean, even when I bought my house on Court Street, which was not the glorious one.
And this kind of goes back to what we just said about commercial. It's cheaper to build new. Now, in the Putnam's case, it probably would have been cheaper to bulldoze them and build a new ranch. But because they're part of the history of Keene.
Right.
They've invested their money where their mouth is.
Well, but it's a historical thing. I mean, it's keeping the character. So you have to balance that. Even my house when I bought it, I mean, I had insulation pumped and there was nothing. You could put your hand right through the outside wall. I mean, I've replaced all the windows. I'm in the middle of painting it, but my house was like a small farmhouse. Those other ones are much, much more glorious than mine.
You're a couple houses away from from that.
Yes, I am a couple houses away. My house is the oldest one, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
So you're in the process of doing renovation and painting.
I'm painting it myself.
Spring's coming, and
well, I've got 25% done. I'm coming around the side of the house. I've been doing it 2 years. I really couldn't get much done last year because of the temperature. You cannot paint a house below a certain temperature and over one, and it went from cold to hot.
Back to cold. And
you need that May, June weather that where it's 70 and temperate to paint a house. Once it gets up to 80, the paint doesn't apply right, and you can't do it. And don't do it, because 3 years from now it'll all be peeling off. So hopefully this year I get a couple of months of some, I can get out there for the weekends and get a couple more sections done. But
and if you need plenty of help, I'm busy that day.
That's right.
Yeah, I am busy that day. Okay. Anyhow.
You're tall. I was hoping you'd go up on the 24-foot ladder.
Yeah.
It gets scary when you get older, that 24-foot ladder. When I was a kid, I'd race right up it. Now it's like, oh boy, if I fall, I will break.
Yeah, this will hurt. Yeah, that's why you hire the 19-year-old with a paintbrush.
Right.
Hey, buddy.
Get the peaks for me,
get the peaks here, will you? Speaking about business in Keene, one kind of a sad note is Babbitt Construction.
Terrible, really.
I think everybody sees the writing on the wall there.
Yeah, it's
unfortunate. McMillan had their problems. Fortunately for them, they sold out to a bigger firm to help infuse some money and keep things going. It appears Babbitt didn't have the same fortune.
No,
that it caught up with them. It was like another small business, Braden Printing, Betsy Braden. A friend from back when our kids went to Franklin School together. Nice little small print shop. Had some nice accounts in Keene for a long time. And she said it best. She just said, well, it fell victim to there was more money going out than coming in.
Right.
And in business, it happens.
When that happens, you're in trouble.
And I think to Babbitt's credit, they probably went even longer than maybe they should have.
Yeah.
Trying to get jobs to pay for the past jobs, and after a while, it catches up with you. You take jobs at cost or below cost, hope for extras, and the extras don't happen.
Right.
And so hopefully, at least the Granite Gorge part of it, I know they were owners there.
Right.
Hopefully that survives, because some nice letters to the paper. That is a nice little part of Keene,
Yes.
Granite Gorge. And hopefully that all works out. And hopefully it works out, personally for the Babbitts, because they put a lot of money into the city. And
they've done, they did the fire station. It's just a beautiful job. It's.
I think that's one of the final projects that.
Yeah, that they
get done.
They've done a lot of good stuff. It's
you feel bad.
You really feel bad. It's just tragic. I mean, but they weren't watching the books. I don't know. And you know, once you're, you know,
once it starts coming down the slope, it starts coming down the slope.
Yeah,
it does,
and it's just terrible. But
you know, to them, at least thank you for all the projects they did around Keene over those years, and you know that they came in and they really went the extra mile many times on projects. You know, coming in, they donated time and money and efforts and drawings and recommendations over the years.
They sure have.
And you know, so kudos to them. You know, hopefully things work out for them. But you know, whatever they do, you know.
Well, you know, and I don't know what's going to happen. You know, maybe if they go bankrupt and they can reorganize and something maybe can be worked out. I mean, you never know.
No, you don't. No.
So,
but good luck whatever direction you wind up going in. You know. Let's see. What else? I got about 8 minutes left here. For those of you that are bored, and a lot of us are this time of year because we're indoors catching colds, a lot of good shows coming up at the Colonial Theater.
Yep.
You know, a couple that it's kind of funny because you see the Eddie Money commercial on television, and he kind of spoofs himself.
Yeah.
But he's a talent, and he's coming up the Colonial shortly.
Yep.
And George Thorogood. And I'm going to have to go see old George Thorogood. He's from way back when.
Yeah, wow, I didn't know. I knew Eddie Money was coming. I didn't know George Thorogood was.
Yeah, he's going to be there. I believe it's early March. And grab a ticket for that. So, and there's a lot of other shows going up the Colonial. So, you know, the great thing is, you don't have to get a room. You know, I mean, hopefully you grab a meal downtown. But if you don't, I mean, you can go straight to the Colonial and go home. But, you know, you go downtown, grab a little inexpensive meal at one of the restaurants, get a great show.
Or grab an expensive meal and make a night of it.
Exactly. And then, you know, and if you want to get a room, grab a room too.
Yeah, right.
Especially for those of you out of town coming into Keene. But some great talent coming up at the Colonial. And it happens quietly. You know, like the George Thorogood. Or you know, Bill Cosby. How quiet was that? All of a sudden you go down and you see the poster, Bill Cosby coming to the Colonial Theater. So, a lot of good talent there. And it'll get us into spring, which is coming.
Yep.
And as I was talking to Kevin Watterson the other day, the Keene Swamp Bats team has been put together for a while now for next year. So some people are already thinking baseball.
Yep.
And it's funny, I was talking to him, and of course we housed Holly and I did one of the pitchers this year, and he had Tommy John surgery, blew his arm out. Staying in touch with him, he's doing well, the arm's coming back. But Kevin was saying this past Swamp Bats team was the best team that they've ever fielded. But right when the playoffs are about to begin, they lost 3 pitchers due to injury. And that was it.
You can't recover from that.
For those of you that follow Swamp Bats, you saw they had an outfielder, they had an infielder that had pitched some, coming in trying to fill in innings.
Right.
And they still hit the bejesus out of the ball, but their starting pitching couldn't quite get over the hump. But that happens in sports. That's why they play the games. So not that much longer. We'll be back out Alumni Field again. You know,
see, I'm not even paying attention to any of that for the next 8-9 days.
8 or 9 days?
It's 8, 7, 8, 9 days.
You want to get into February?
You know, once the 49ers win the Super Bowl, then I can start working on baseball.
Had to tweak that in one more time, didn't you? Yeah, good job, Dave.
I'm going to wear my jersey next week.
I'm sure you will.
Hey, I've been waiting for this for
Wait till next year. Wait till next year.
What have you been waiting? 1 year. I've been waiting 18. Right? So, I mean.
You know what's funny, though? I mean, not funny. But it seems like, the Patriots dynasty is right here. It's been 10 years since they won the last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah, I mean, it's
01, 02, and 04. I mean, they've been right on top all year long, but they've never quite been able to.
And I'm telling you, it goes back to you need some names on the defense, and you're going to be right back in it. But don't wait too long, because Tom Brady, as good as he is, and he is great, he is not getting younger.
Got a few years left.
He does. So you got to make your move now.
And the poor guy, what's he going to do? Jeez, is he ever going to find a good-looking wife? Is he ever going to have any money?
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay. Some local stuff again here. Talking about the police a little bit. We had a lot of store robberies here that were going on. Exactly. And you might have noticed the robberies have stopped. So it looks like they may stay stopped with that particular individual. We're not going to go into detail on that, but let's just say the police know more than we do.
Yeah.
And we'll go with that without giving up any information I'm not supposed to.
Well, there was that robbery in Peterborough. Where
that's different. Yeah, that's a professional job.
But that's the one that makes me a little nervous. Is that you got 4 people. They came up, hit the jewelry store, cleaned it out. I mean, I worry more about that.
But think about Keene, and I think that at least some robbers have found, like the one that tried to rob Diversified Computer.
Right.
You get into Keene, it's not that easy getting out of Keene.
Right.
And I think that actually. Our locale actually save us sometimes because we are tucked down here in the valley, and usually that you find like the bank robberies we've had, the store robberies we've had, there's always somebody local.
Yeah.
with the exception of the diversified computer thing, which a guy paid with it for his life, with his
Right.
life. But all the banks have been robbed over the years, and all the stores have been robbed. They've caught them all.
They catch them all. So
And
yeah,
trust me, this one's going to join the same category. What's interesting to see that, talk about school safety, Keene's been progressive and jumped on it.
Yeah.
We have the SRO at the high school, and the police got together with the school board and said, hey, you know what? We're out there patrolling during the day. We're going to constantly be stopping by the schools. It's a presence. Park the cruiser out front, almost like part of your downtown patrol.
Right.
Park at the school, walk around the corridors.
Yeah.
Great idea. Doesn't cost the city an extra penny.
Yep.
Just a matter of, if they get a little bit of a break, they hit the schools.
Yep.
So, and keeping the officer at the high school, you have to do that. We were ahead of the curve on that one, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And and not thinking about the terrible things that happen, but when you have, I like this more than anything else because as they walk through the schools, the kids will say, "I'm hi, officer," and it builds a rapport. And not about the horrible things, but about the community. And it's better for the community when you got kids seeing the cops and being friendly to each other. It just makes a better community.
And when they trust the officer, because now they become on a first name basis with him.
Right.
And I'm going to go over the police log briefly here in a second from this past week. There was one arrest for drugs at Keene High School, and the SRO officer was involved in it.
Yeah.
And there you go. Did somebody turn him in? Did he see something? Whatever.
Right.
But it happens. So, you get one kid arrested for drugs at the high school, maybe it turns into a couple of bigger fish.
Yeah, maybe it leads. The
goes
dominoes
somewhere.
start falling.
It goes somewhere. So briefly, I'll go down last week's police log. College was out, so things were a little bit quieter because there was 5,000 less people in Keene at the time, and it was cold.
Right.
Trends that are up and trends that are down. Noise complaints in Keene were way down the past week, but then again, it's cold. You know,
nobody's outside making noise.
Exactly. So noise complaints were way down. One thing that was up was assaults and domestics and disturbances. Those were up. And why is that?
The cabin fever?
They're stuck indoors
cabin
together.
fever?
And I was talking to one of the police officers about that. If things are quieter because it's cold. Noise complaints are quieter. Domestics and disturbances are up because now you're forced into the house with each other that they don't want to be. So those were up. Criminal mischief, there's about 8 or 10 of them that stayed about the same for Keene. Drug arrests were down. There was only one, and it was at the high school.
That's interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Alcohol arrests were down. There was only 7. There was 9 motor vehicle accidents he responded to, so that was actually down. Shelter issues, arrests at the Keene shelters and disturbances was at 5. It's a little bit up, but I think it's one of those things again where
you're filling up shelters because nobody's staying outside. So.
Exactly. So basically, things where people are inside were up, and complaints where there's usually outside complaints were down. And obviously, it's weather related. Shoplifting was up a little bit. There was 17 of those. I mean,
I'm looking at this one right here. Stop going through people's backyards.
The suspicious persons. That's at 14. That's about the same, and that's exactly what it is. But suspicious persons, that is a really good one because that means people are paying attention and they're calling in just to say, I see something I don't think is right.
So stop running through people's backyards. The cops have better things to do.
The fire department, in our last 25 seconds left here.
Your clock's ticking.
Yep. There was 5 fires, 1 building, 2 in the kitchen, 2 chimney fires, 51 ambulance calls, 2 hazmat calls for gas leaks, and they had 7 false alarms, and there was 1 malicious alarm. Stop pulling the boxes. You're going to go to jail for it. It ain't worth it.
And with 7 seconds left.
That's it. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week with a greater and better show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, we're out of here.